Thank you, Laskin Curler. I want to begin with a quote from Jonathan Swift. It goes, "Falsehood flies, and the truth comes limping after it, so that when men come to be undeceived, it is too late. The jest is over, and the tale has had its effect." He made that comment in 1710, but the sentiment is even more relevant today in the context of false media and false news. And it is why we need an independent media. It's why we need a valuable independent media. And public service broadcasting and all its ethos and its elements are a very important part of that equation. And maybe that part of the equation is one that is taken most for granted across this country, but particularly by government. We read late last night of RTE plans to save some €60 million over the next 3 years, a range of cuts, including 200 redundancies. 200 redundancies notified to staff by media leaks late last night. That's not good enough for anybody in any organisation. RTE is under substantial financial pressure due to falling income from advertising, to changing viewership trends, online trends and global changes. But it has also had quite a substantial lack of engagement from government about its funding model, about licence fee evasion, and a constant effort on the part of government to kick the can down the road, not to deal with the challenges that it's facing. Ireland has the highest evasion rate in Europe at 14%, which is a loss of about 25 million a year. And there's another 11% of households who don't pay the licence at all, which is another further 20 million. You know that information, Taoiseach. It's not new to the government. You have stuck your heads in the sand, this government and the previous government. You've discussed a broadcasting charge lengthways and sideways. What was your decision, with full knowledge of the challenge that our entire media industry, not just RTE, is facing? We'll decide on that in 5 years. You're completely procrastinating as a government on changes to defamation laws, regularly described by outside independent experts as having chilling effect on the way Irish media, both print and broadcasting, do their work. And because of your inertia, your inactions, and your head in the sand, RTE announced, as I said, 200 redundancies, the downgrading of their presence in Limerick, a sale of assets, an indefinite pay freeze for all staff, and a 15% pay reduction for those in top earners. But I'm just reading in the last few minutes, that's the bit the government is focusing on. The top presenters cut their pay and ignoring the 200 people, ignoring the indefinite pay freeze on those on the lowest incomes. Taoiseach, this is in addition to cuts in other media organisations. Virgin Media announced 60 cuts last week. We know all of our newspaper groups are announcing regular job cuts. The independent broadcasting sector is operating on a shoestring because of the lack of a coherent and a cohesive government policy around defending media in the challenges that face it, defending public service broadcasting, defending an independent media that asks the hard questions, that gives the information. We want them, but we won't pay for them. Taoiseach, when were the government informed about the RTE plans? Has Minister Bruton met with management and our board members in RTE? And finally, Taoiseach, are you actually interested in preserving and promoting an independent media, with public service broadcasting as a key part of that? Are you going to continue to keep your head in the sand while our media industry dies?
3 minutes.
Thank you, Ciarán. First of all, I think it's just appropriate for me to say to the House on a personal level that my brother works in RTE and has been involved in the restructuring plans that have been publicised today, and I think it's important for me to just say that for the record. Secondly, though, I want to say that public service broadcasting is more important than it's ever been, in my view. Independent, objective reporting of domestic and international affairs is absolutely crucial for any functioning democracy. We must recognise, though, that the landscape in which broadcasters operate is undergoing a transformation, and that gives rise to new challenges, both for us as a government, but also to RTE themselves, in terms of the need for reform. Audiences are transitioning away from traditional platforms and are increasingly accessing content online through digital media. Additional funding has been provided to RTE with the allocation of €10 million of additional funding between 2018 and 2019. In August of this year, the Government accepted the recommendations of the working group on the future funding of public service broadcasting for reform of the TV licence collection system. TV licence fee collection will be put out to tender when the enabling legislation, the Broadcasting Amendment Bill 2019, is enacted, and that bill recently passed second stage. This will allow a 5-year contract for the service to be put in place, allowing the successful bidder the opportunity and the incentive to invest in a system of collection that reduces evasion levels, which are far too high. The official figure that I have is 12.83%, or just under 13%, which does not rate well with other countries. The Government has also agreed that at the end of that 5-year contract period, the licence fee should be replaced by a device-independent broadcasting charge which takes account of the technological change and will enable the sustainable funding of public service content in the longer term. And I think that is welcome. It is not appropriate into the medium term to be continuing to pay for public service broadcasting by effectively putting a charge or a licence fee on television ownership, when we know that at least 10% of homes don't have televisions but are watching content online, whether it's on tablets or iPads or on computer screens. And so we are adapting from a public policy perspective and from a funding approach perspective. While RTE's commercial income dropped significantly during the recession by €100 million, from 250 million down to 150 million, RTE were in a position to break even in 2013 and 2014. And I think it's important to say that. Since then, their commercial revenue has been largely stable. Commercial revenue has been reasonably stable at €150 million between 2013 and 2018. Licence fee revenue has increased from 179 to 189 in that period, and the operating costs of RTE has increased during that period by about 11%.
Time is up, please.
So we will play our part from a policy point of view, but we also expect RTE to evolve and make the decisions they need to respond to consumer approaches towards media, which is changing dramatically.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Deputy Calleary.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Nothing you have said there is new. Our entire media industry as a country, including RTE, is on life support, and your prescription is tea and sympathy. So you just need to wake up. You speak of new challenges. We've known about these for 5 years. You're kicking cans down the line for another 5 years. Will we have a media industry in 5 years? I want you to come back to a few questions. Firstly, when was Minister Bruton informed? Did he meet? There has been no reference, Taoiseach, to Radio na Gaeltachta or TG Cahar in any of the plans. What are their future in the context of these plans? So Sean Tábhachtach go mai radio agus television Gaeilge again. The licence fee evasion rates. Changing the tendering isn't going to magically change evasion rates. What specific proposals have you around that? I come to the defamation laws, reform of the defamation laws, which is crucial for our independent, particularly print journalism. Again, kick down the can. We'll do a review, and papers are closing, journalists are losing their jobs. Good media is dying on the vine while you whistle by the graveyard. And let this be the wake-up call. We've had Virgin Media, we've had Times Ireland, we've had redundancies. Now we've had RTE for the third time in as many years with redundancies. When are you going to wake up?
Taoiseach.
Well, firstly, Deputy, I think it's important to say that Minister Bruton only received the final report from RTE this morning. RTE were not expecting to have to deal with this issue today. It's my understanding. I listened to Dee Forbes this morning on Morning Ireland explain the frustration within RTE of the fact that this had been leaked and was in the front of the Irish Times, and many people working for RTE, over 1,800 of them, reading this morning in the newspaper of decisions that they should have been informed about internally within RTE first, and I expect and know that there's huge frustration within RTE as a result of that. But that is how modern media works. It's instantaneous. When information gets leaked, and is available, it's made public very quickly. And RTE themselves take that approach, as well as other media outlets. So I don't think we should get into the blame game there. But having said all that, we now are confronted with, of course, responding as a government to a detailed plan from RTE. We will assess that. We will work with them. And Minister Bruton has met recently with RTE and will meet again with them. We certainly would have had an idea of the approach that was coming forward in this plan. But the answer to your question, Deputy, is that Minister Bruton, my understanding is that he only received a plan, a complete plan this morning from RTE, and now needs time to assess it fully.
Deputy